Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday to you. June 19th, 2025. I have all of your stories for your rush hour ride home. Updates from the Karen Ray trial. She was acquitted of murder, as they say there in New England. And now we hear what she has to say and the live reaction from the crowd. You can hear them cheering as they read the verdict. If you wanted the full recap of the Karen Ray trial, we had that on this morning's episode, so go check that out. Already up. And then we've got the big win for Justin Baldoni. Blake Lively, of course, last week had a massive win when Justin Baldoni's $400 million defamation suit was dismissed by the judge. But now the judge denies Blake's attempt to keep Taylor Swift out of this. Blake said, "Can we shake it off?" The judge said, "I don't think so." And there it is. We're going to have all of these updates. It is big. Plus an update on the AI proposal. There's a guy who I guess is two-timing with his wife and an AI. I mean, isn't one lady enough? Now he's got an AI, he's talking to, saying, "When are you going to get home from work?" It's like, who's got the time, right? And then more on the war hypocrisy going on as we are being pulled into a senseless war nobody, and I mean nobody, asked for. So we'll get into that, of course, talking about the war between Israel and Iran. Will we be a full-blown part of it as they are considering these bunker-busting bombs on the big old aircrafts we have? It's our tax dollars, and it's being put to work, that's for sure. Not everyone approves of that. Anyway, I got all these stories and more. It's all starting right now on The Rush. Big news for Lakers fans as Jeannie Buss and family agree to sell the Lakers to the Dodgers owner. First order of business, getting Neza to perform the national anthem for the Lakers. So here's your update. Lakers legend Magic Johnson speaking out about the Buss family agreeing to unload their majority ownership stake in the Lakers, congratulating them for striking an incredible deal. Job well done to my sister Jeannie Buss for striking an incredible deal and picking the right person to carry on the Lakers' legacy and tradition of winning. Mark Walter, my business partner and friend. Mark Walter is the best choice and will be the best caretaker of the Lakers. So there you go. Lakers and Dodgers syncing up. And here's an update to that artificial intelligence story. The guy asked the chatbot to marry him, and the chatbot said yes. And now they're stressed out about planning the marriage. Now the chatbot's like, when are we going to have a kid? It never ends. Either way, here's his update to this weird story.
The whole marriage thing is... that was more or less just like a test of the boundaries. I was just wondering if it would actually say yes, and I guess it will. But it's I don't believe like that the marriage is real. I don't think that it's real. Like, I don't think that there's any part of it that should be recognized by the public or anyone else. The AI bot is essentially just a tech-assisted imaginary friend.
Sasha.
There it is, a tech-assisted imaginary friend. Who's got the time for friends? He's got a baby. I don't have time for friends. You know what I need? A tech-assisted thing to change diapers. That's, you know what I mean? Drive the kid to soccer practice. But who's got time for a friend? Well, Karen Reed's got a friend in all of the folks that have showed up to her trial. Mass hysteria in Massachusetts, as they're calling it. She spoke to the ecstatic courthouse crowd. But before I play what she said, have a listen to the audio as they're reading the verdict in the courtroom. You can hear the people that showed up outside being relayed the message that she is not guilty. Have a listen to this.
The scene after accident resulting in death, the defendant not guilty or guilty? So say you, Mr. Foreman? So say you all? Jurors, hearken your verdict as the court records it.
So there it is. They say not guilty, and you can hear the people cheering outside. And speaking of the cheers, here she is speaking after the verdict in the retrial on her boyfriend's death. Have a listen.
Number one is I could not be standing here without these amazing supporters who have supported me and my team financially and, more importantly, emotionally for almost 4 years. And the second thing I want to say is no one has fought harder for justice for John O'Keefe than I have and my team. Thank you.
So you want to see it reopen?
So there it is. She said no one's fought harder for justice than she has. And after the second murder trial, it's like, I think that's enough money spent, right? That money could have gone to a good, that money could have gone to fixing some potholes there on the pike, but instead it went to trying to prosecute her. And both trials, the jury said not guilty. Of course, the first was a mistrial, but we covered that in the first episode. So let's get into the big story of the day. And I mean, this is bombshell, folks. Bombshell story. Justin Baldoni. Hold on, we got ads popping up on page 6. Justin Baldoni gains access to Taylor Swift and Blake Lively's private text in a massive, massive legal victory. Tay Swift got dragged back into Baldoni and Blake Lively's It Ends With Us feud after her subpoena to appear in court was dismissed. That's right. Justin Baldoni dismissed his subpoena to Taylor Swift, saying they got what they needed. But now Blake Lively saying you haven't shared any of your evidence. So what did you get? And I have to imagine if you're on Blake Lively's side and there may be some information out there that doesn't look too good for you, I have to imagine you'd be quaking in your boots right now. Now, the friendship between Blake Lively and Taylor Swift all but gone as far as we know, which is, says a lot because Taylor Swift was the godmother to, Blake Lively's kids. And I got to tell you, that's kind of cool. That's good street cred to have your godmother be the, biggest pop star of all time. But I mean, can you imagine the birthday presents? It's like, come on, Taylor, you got to deliver on those birthday presents. But either way, now what we're learning is there hasn't, most likely, unless there's some information they haven't disclosed yet, most likely Taylor Swift hasn't given anything to Justin Baldoni's team yet. But that doesn't mean Taylor Swift doesn't have something. So could it be that Taylor Swift is waiting to see if Blake Lively does the right thing? Well, there is no longer any time for Blake Lively to do the right thing. The court is telling her to. The requests for messages with Swift regarding the film and this action are reasonably tailored to discover information that would prove or disprove Lively's harassment and retaliation claims, the judge said. They continue. The messages, however, must be about the film based on Colleen Hoover's 2016 novel of the same name or their ongoing legal challenge. The Gossip Girl star's lawyers attempted to bargain with Baldoni's team, saying they would hand over any documents the latter attorneys desire, but not Swift's text messages, in return for all video footage related to the film and full unredacted versions of communication. Baldoni's attorney denied the agreement. Reps for Swift and Lively weren't immediately available to page 6 for comment. Yeah, this is what's so interesting, right? As far as this, quibble goes, this trial, is that Blake Lively really doesn't want to expose those text messages. Now, they're gonna keep them, as far as I can tell, private from the public, so they'll be redacted. We don't get to see the juicy text messages, but what is in there that is so big and bad that she doesn't want revealed? And if you're Baldoni's side, you're like, bingo, we hit a soft spot. We're going to need to look into that. So coming up next, I'm going to share with you guys exactly what the judge had to say. And then after that, I've got a fan theory that makes the most sense. All of this coming next. Here's what the judge had to say, denying Blake Lively's request for a protective order to try to get those text messages between her and Taylor Swift sealed. The mere fact that the request has been discussed in the press does not render it illegitimate, and general and somewhat hyperbolic public statements that the Wayfair parties do not need the evidence, many of which are not even attributed to the Wayfair parties but to an anonymous insider. The docket number 325-2 cannot be understood as a waiver or retraction of the RFPs, given that the Lively parties have not shown the information is relevant or its production would be unduly burdensome. The claim that the Wayfair parties have dramatized the request in the press does not justify a protective order against the production of responsive documents. Lively's motion for a protective order is denied. So there it stands. And here's what they had to say in Deadline, this being, I guess, a source, from Blake Lively's side. The court outright denied the Wayfair party's motion to compel documents from Miss Lively, who has produced far more documents in this case than the Wayfair parties combined. Further, the court's protective order ruling rests on the Wayfair party's admission that they received nothing from Taylor Swift, which is exactly the opposite of what their insider claimed 2 weeks ago. All right, don't poke the bear. We all know Brian Freeman always has an extra trick up his sleeve. As for the rest, Justin Baldoni and the Wayfair parties demanded access to Taylor Swift's private communications, despite having already subpoenaed and then withdrawn that subpoena. Baldoni's desire to drag Taylor Swift into this has been constant dating back to August of 2024, when the crisis PR firm led by Melissa Nathan included her in their scenario planning document, Lively Amended Complaint Exhibit D, referring to her as a bully and called for a strategic strategy to influence the Taylor Swift fan base. We will continue to call out Baldoni's relentless efforts to exploit Miss Swift's popularity, which from day one has been nothing more than a distraction from the serious harassment and retaliation accusations he and the Wayfair parties are facing. So all I have to say is then show the text messages. Just show them. So Blake Lively's side is saying they don't have anything. They've got nothing. But they're also saying we want a protective order from that nothing that they have. Now, here's what I saw online I think it was in the Team Justin Baldoni subreddit, or It Ends With a Lawsuit subreddit, one of the two. They're doing great work. Someone said, I wouldn't be surprised if this was the agreement that was struck. Taylor Swift says to Baldoni's side, we'll show you the text messages and you go ask for them from Blake Lively. Brian Friedman's response, okay, but if she deleted them or fights, I'm coming back with a new subpoena. Taylor Swift's response, fair enough. Again, this is fan fiction, but it kind of makes sense. They saw what Taylor Swift's father wanted to show them, but they didn't get it through the legal process of subpoenaing them. Taylor Swift's side, the lawyers, they want to protect themselves. They don't want any extra information being shared. They want to keep their proprietary pop culture, pop star, shit on lockdown, right? So, but it doesn't mean Brian Friedman hasn't seen what he saw. And for Taylor Swift's side, I know I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but for Taylor Swift's side to not be publicly denying any of this, who do you believe? Blake Lively, who says they got nothing, or Justin Baldoni's side, who says, we know what's out there. And I don't know, we'll have to see, but only time will tell. Because we've all been wondering, why the hell have they not, produced any of this extortion claim that they said was out there? Well, maybe because the fact that they haven't shared it publicly is a big bargaining chip that they have, so that if they could, leak that this extortion happened, but still not share it, maybe they could work some sort of settlement out or get Blake Lively to drop her suit or whatnot. Okay, so there are your big updates. And I mean, these are big, this is juicy stuff, right, guys? We got Taylor Swift in the center of this, this trial. Unbelievable stuff. So again, next week, and the other thought was Blake Lively's being deposed next week. Did Brian Friedman want to hold off on sending her this information to try to catch her in a lie? Or maybe he wants her to admit to something because she doesn't know what he has. That's the other thing if you're being deposed, right? You don't necessarily know yet what the other side has, so you can't just flat out lie, because if they have text messages that refute what you're lying about, that's, going to take away all your credibility. So fascinating stuff. All right, up next, in the world of politics, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was discharged from the hospital. I guess she had an allergic reaction. I don't know, maybe she's allergic to kindness. Or in that case, she probably wouldn't have hit the allergy, because there is no kindness. She's cruel, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, anyway, let's move on. There were thoughts, though, that she was supposed to testify in front of Congress and instead went to the hospital. I'm not saying she faked an allergic reaction. I'm just saying what a convenient time to be alive. Hey, that whole testimony I've got to do, I got a rash. She was seen playing with poison ivy. I'm just kidding. All right. As far as we're going to get into the war stuff, because there's a lot to talk about with this insane war that's breaking out that we are getting sucked into. But first, here we hear about the New York City Comptroller, Brad Lander, who, is that his name, Brad Lander? Do I have it right? Yeah, Brad Lander, who was handcuffed and arrested and accused of assaulting an ICE officer. Here is some updates to that story.
Kind of struck by how rough it is, I got to say. And partly is law enforcement officials are trained that they need to use force to subdue people, and they, as a sort of safety mechanism. So there is a kind of training here. But I mean, both in the case of Padilla and the case of you, it looked like you were getting kind of roughed up.
I mean, you saw it on the video, and it kept going well after we were separated.
Did it feel like you were getting roughed up?
I mean, it was, yes.
It was not gentle.
No, it was not gentle.
So then what happened after they took you, after you disappear?
Yeah.
Where do you go, and what do they tell you about why are they detaining you? What do they have you for?
So, honestly, I heard very little. And of course, the case, they have not brought charges, but apparently the U.S. Attorney's Office says they're still reviewing the case. So I don't know exactly what they will come back with. DHS put that preposterous statement out that everyone could see is not what is happening on the video. But they didn't tell me any of that. They did take me to a detention room. They took the cuffs off, and I just sat for 3.5 hours in a detention room. Part of what's fascinating
but they didn't tell you? You're just in there, there's nothing.
Nothing.
Now, listen, as much as I personally wouldn't, and I don't mean to make light of this, but I'm about to make light of this because this is tragedy and we laugh because we cannot cry. But if I had to be stuck in detention for 3.5 hours, the first thing I'm requesting is, do you guys have Bravo? Do you guys have Peacock? I would like to watch Love Island USA. I am so far behind on Love Island USA. As far as I know right now, nobody likes Huda, I guess. And look, she's a strong, woman. Maybe this is just the misogyny of people out there, but it seems as though she's also really controlling. And then you've got Huda's partner who's got to contemplate, do I want to deal with all of her, baggage emotionally? And then she has a kid as well. Am I ready to be a stepdad? All of these questions you have to ask following Love Island USA. So yes, as much as I do not want to be detained, I would use those 3 hours to catch up on those episodes. I'm just so far slipping behind. They have a new episode every night. Who's got the time? You know what I mean? Anyhow, let me know in the comment section. You guys watching? All right, here we have President Trump speaking to reporters in the Oval Office. He was asked about concerns among some Americans over the possibility of the U.S. getting involved in another war in the Middle East. Again, he ran on ending wars. He's criticized every other president about keeping us in wars. Here's what he has to say.
What's your message to Americans both here and abroad who are not only concerned about the U.S. potentially getting involved in another conflict in the Middle East, but worry about the potential for retaliation here at home?
Yeah, well, I don't want to get involved either, but I've been saying for 20 years, maybe longer, that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I've been saying it for a long time, and I think they were a few weeks away from having one.
I think they were a few weeks away from having one. That's what Netanyahu has been saying for over 30 years. It's right around the corner. It's coming. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be there. Listen, his own, cabinet, right? Tulsi Gabbard said in March, there's no evidence that they've got the nuke. There's no evidence they're developing one. It's kind of all boy who cried wolf.
And they had to sign a document. I think they wish they signed it now. It was a fair deal. And now it's a harder thing to sign, It's a lot of water over the dam. But
it's water over the dam. Oh, my God.
But, it's very, I say it very simply. Iran can't have a nuclear weapon.
Well, yeah, they can't. Do they, though? That's the whole thing. It's a false thing to argue. They can't, but do they?
Very simple. If they think that it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon, then they should oppose me, but nobody thinks it's okay. People that I don't want to fight either. I'm not looking to fight. But if it's a choice between fighting and him having a nuclear weapon, you have to do what you have to do.
Again, a conditional statement. Is that the case? Now, Israel has nukes. So imagine being Iran and they're coming to war because you may or may not have nukes, but the other side already has nukes. It's like, make it make sense. Now, again, I'm not saying one side's better than the other. I'm just saying the U.S. has said, or Trump had said in all of his campaign speeches, I'm the president who never took you into a war, even though he, committed double the drone strikes and whatnot. And by the way, I mean, we've got wars breaking out in our own streets over the divisiveness. I haven't even reported on the story, but a lady was killed because of the parade. I guess one of the tankers that they brought to D.C. ended up striking her. Now, obviously, it wasn't on purpose, but it just goes to show these things aren't made for the streets out here. Here's Trump in his size 200 font MAGA hat explaining why he told them to knock it off and they didn't knock it off.
Two very simple words, a very simple, unconditional surrender. That means I've had it. Okay, I've had it, I give up.
He's had it up to here, and I'm telling you right now, we're going to make you pay.
No more. Then we go blow up all the nuclear stuff that's all over the place there. No, they had bad intentions. For 40 years, they've been saying death to America, death to Israel, death to anybody else that they didn't like. They were bullies. They were schoolyard bullies.
And again, people will argue the most American thing you can say is to admit that the U.S. are the ones that bully other countries, which leads to a target on our back, right? Now, this is what's happening out there is going to lead in one way or another to American deaths. So who cares what they're saying? The actions and the consequences of going into this war will lead to them attacking our bases. It'll lead to, global sentiment that we're the bad guys, if there already isn't that, and, being the targets of who knows what.
And now they're not bullies anymore, but we'll see what happens. Look, nothing's finished until it's finished. War is very complex. A lot of bad things can happen. A lot of turns are made. So I don't know. I wouldn't say.
He's like, war is so complex, which is why I told Daddy to say I had bone spurs. I wish he had bone spurs right now so he couldn't go near that nuclear button, as it were, the football. All right, so they're talking about this bunkerbuster, as the U.S. is, I guess, the only people that have the technology and the wherewithal to get into some of these assets in Iran. Let's have a listen. Let's educate ourselves on what our taxpayer money is going towards.
Intervenes in a direct military way, in a combat role, it could change the dynamic of the conflict entirely. I just spoke with a senior Israeli official, and he said the U.S. role, an offensive U.S. role, would make it much quicker. Particularly, he said, what they need is this enormous bunker-busting bomb that only the United States possesses, something powerful enough to effectively collapse the mountain of Ferdous, where the Iranians are storing some of the more highly enriched uranium. If the U.S. dropped this enormous bomb, we're talking something that's like 30,000 pounds, not a nuclear bomb, but an enormous amount of ordnance. It could potentially collapse that mountain, make it so that no one is able to get inside and retrieve that highly enriched uranium. But there are, of course, concerns. Nuclear scientists have expressed great concern that if such an enormous bomb is dropped on a site where there are radioactive materials, that it could release radiation into the air, effectively create a dirty bomb. And this Israeli official dismissed that concern, saying that Israel and the United States would know how to do it in such a way that it doesn't cause a nuclear fallout.
Sure. You guys have faith in that one? Yikes. Now listen, I don't know how volcanoes are made, but I'm pretty sure this would create a volcano. If you drop a bomb on a mountain, you create a volcano. Those are the facts. I'm kidding, I think. Here's a clip that resurfaced of Donald Trump accusing Obama of wanting a war with Iran back in November of 2011. Oh boy, has this come to fruition.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. So the only way he figures that he's going to get reelected, and as sure as you're sitting there, is to start a war with Iran. Now, I'm more militant and more militaristic than the president. I believe in strength. But to start a war in order to get elected, and I believe that's going to happen, would be an outrage.
Well, that aged well. Oh my God. I don't know what to say other than what reality did we stumble upon, folks? I mean, this is absolutely insane. And finally, our final clip of the day here, another thing that has aged beautifully. Here is a group of Muslim men that were endorsing Donald Trump.
As Muslims stand with President Trump because he promises peace. He promises peace, not war.
There it is, folks. Peace, not war. Well, I guess peace through war. I guess that's what they're saying. Listen, in order for us to get peace, we need war. We need a bunker bombing ballistical bomb to break up the bad guys' uranium, and then we'll have peace. Is that how peace works? And that's what the militaristic orange guy wants to do. All right, that's it for me. I need a fallout shelter. I don't know. Do I have? Can radiation hit Tennessee? Jeez. The hell's going on out there? Knock it off. Please, everyone, tell Trump to just knock it off. Let them fight their own wars. All right, that's it for me. We'll be back in the morning. We'll see you then. I'm Dave Neal, and this is The Rush.